Yeah, so
Hi.
I was
Yeah, we're just continuing. Like, if this ends up being uploaded,
yeah,
we just in the middle of conversation, and I was like, "Let me record this." So please
like
continue. Tell
because
us.
Katja just discovered this new personal trainer who is very well educated on the body and who is not just oriented towards performance all the time.
Yes.
So we were saying that we really have an issue with performance in this culture. Um Everywhere, because I was thinking about sexuality because I'm currently working on a new offering around that, and I keep circling back to the same notion that the actual issue we have is to be hyper oriented towards performance. And that you actually can find this in all areas of life: work, relationships, love, even friendships, the way we speak, the way we dress, and working out. Um, and yeah, and that maybe one of the pathways I was thinking about was that maybe we got used to so much, like to get our sense of belonging so much from sameness and being accepted and validated by current mainstream culture, that we don't know who we are, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Authenticity is a very trendy topic. It's always been, I think, in the life coaching realm in general and self-development. Um, But oftentimes when I think about this topic, I circle back to existential repair, you know?
Mm.
Like, I feel like so many people, if not almost everyone in this culture, are not convinced that they should exist.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so you only exist if you can give or take something from the capitalist monster. That's what gives you
Mm-hmm.
the right to be here. But existing in right relationship with the world. And you can finish the sentence for me because I think the world is many dimensions,
Mm-hmm.
realms. Um, that this prevents us from having a very heavy, deep sense of I should be here. And like it makes sense that I'm here. And to be able to create things and do things that are so unique to us. And that this might actually be the revolution, quote unquote, that we're looking for.
Yes, please. When can
Instead
we start?
instead of fighting the system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we could take this in many realms. Like, for example, the ancestral one. We could say that maybe your ancestors gave you a mission. You know, like they gave you something, like they built you from generations and generations to actually be here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It could be God, you know, you were here like for another mission. And maybe other realms, I would love for you to say, and maybe more mythical or archetypal, that can also be like the source of, I know why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Something that isn't man-made systems.
Yeah, there's like a whole conundrum that lately I'm discovering and going into, like, like diving into portal within portal within portal of how exactly what you said. Like, it's everything is about performance. Everybody's obsessed with improving performance, like more money, more like becoming better at whatever, and like everything needs to be better and more, better and more. Um, with continuous improvement without knowing, like without really knowing what am I improving. So there's no sense of self very
This is
often,
very
and
good.
this is not a judgment, right? It's not like, definitely not a shaming, because this is a ask me how I know situation. Like, I must improve something without actually knowing, without having any sense of self, without having any rootedness in this existential place of I exist, without knowing even like who am I, what am I, what is like any of this, how am I in this world. But let me improve this, because what I have now is not working, to me. From where I stand now and looking a little bit like with all the trainings that I teach and everything, and kind of getting like a bigger picture and having so many conversations, including this one, is just like, wait, the whole humanity is doing like this, like trying to improve the thing that I have no idea what it is. And of course, you're never gonna achieve anything. You never, ever, if without knowing the self, without having this rootedness in the
Exactly.
self, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you achieve and how much and blah, 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 all the things, because there never will be satisfaction.
Exactly. Exactly. And actually, if we try to answer the question, maybe you're improving the hungry ghost, the shaming ghost. That's what
Mm,
you're improving. And one of the ways in which I think it's an interesting topic, conversation, is around, for example, food or like working out or health in general,
yes,
is that
yes.
many people are criticizing now that the over obsession for health that we can find in social media, but
Mm-hmm.
almost everywhere, and talk about like the shaming and the guilting and what's not okay about talking about self-responsibility and being responsible. Um, but I don't think that being oriented towards health is actually the problem. The problem is when you orient towards health without knowing, without having this strong sense of self. Because like,
Exactly.
let's say you want to have a good diet, you know? If you don't actually have a relationship with the food, if you don't enjoy it, if there is no pleasure, if there is no sense, inner sense of intuition, like
Mm-hmm.
what do I feel like eating, what do I need, then yes, it's going to become obsession, it's going to become self-oppression, it's going to become self-shaming all the time. And you might never actually achieve the health you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you feeding?
Exactly. Oh, the feeding. The feeding topic is lately also like such a strong topic for me, in all kinds of expressions of this. Feeding as in food, like the actual eating, because I come also from the background of having an eating disorder from like the very young age. I was like, since I was 5 years old, I've been told that I'm fat. Basically, that I need to stop eating and lose some weight. 5 years old. Like how often do we need to say this to a little child before it gets into the system? Body dysmorphia, like completely so disconnected from the body that like the perception of the body was completely distorted. Um, and so this feeding topic, from like with the food, like literal feeding, also mental feeding, like everything is a feeding cycle. Like the whole of life basically is a feeding cycle. And like, if we think about the like basically the foundations of alchemy, there needs to be the feeding so that something else can be, right? It's an exchange. There's an offering so that I can receive. And this feeding cycle is kind of, we learn to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, we disconnect so much, and again, with a very good reason, right? The disconnection happens always with a very, very good reason, because life is much. And then it gets removed into this mental abstraction of things, and it stops existing anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, it's okay. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, it's like it becomes kind of doable in a way. But then again, the question is like, is it the life that I want to live?
Uh-huh.
And then lately, I've been also thinking a lot about what I call the mythic hunger, right? This mythic hunger in this epic and
Mm-hmm.
intensity of internal experience. And this like desire for more, but not from this capitalistic greedy more of like, "Ah, not enough, not enough, not enough, but more life in this life,
Yeah. And maybe
right?
the opposite of restriction.
Yes. Yeah, this the mythic hunger, unfed, unmet, unmatched.
Mm-hmm.
And what tends to happen, addictions, obsessions, blowing out lives and relationships, drama, like, yeah, provoking stuff so that the external mythicness of it all will be really like will meet the internal mythicness,
Mm-hmm.
the mythic hunger of like and then yeah, what are we doing? As like it's humanity, you know, what are
Yeah.
we doing? What is happening?
Mm. Yeah. What are we doing? And I think that's where that's where I really love trauma work, because you get to understand the patterns. For example,
Mm,
there are, I noticed there are people who really don't like the, even they get triggered by the terms of responsibility or radical responsibility or being
mm,
responsible, you know?
mm-hmm.
And other people can be extremely triggered by any expression of victimhood. So like the two poles of this. And it's really interesting to notice this, because then if you add in the concept of capacity, then you understand that responsibility is tidal and victimhood actually is also tidal.
Yep.
Like if you're a victim of something, you're a victim of something. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it needs to become your identity, and same for like feeling responsible for everything. But I do love the concept of being responsible, but I think it doesn't make sense if you don't add in or do you have capacity to actually feel
Mm-hmm.
responsible without it being harmful,
Yeah.
without it being the same oppressive voice, just changing the mask, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You need to be responsible. You need to think like, it's like when people don't realize that we are actually in constant relationship with harm. For example, if you live in a polluted city, you do breathe
Mm-hmm.
air. Like
Yeah.
you can't change the fact that you interact with it, you know? So there is a recognition of us being victims of things that we cannot change on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also this recognition of, but we can also be responsible for so many other things. And like, how can we find balance
Mm-hmm.
between the two? Um, in a way that we have, like you said, like a healthy sense of will and drive that allows us to match the mythic hunger, like that allows us
Mm-hmm.
to actually live and not always feel either victim of systems or responsible of everything.
Yeah. And then it kind of brings it everything. I don't remember now if we talked about this. Probably the range of everything,
Yeah,
because everything, every emotion, every state can live anywhere on the range of like human experience. Can be in hyper, can be in hypo, can be a little bit like stuck somewhere, spinning some like in some kind of momentum. And then what we like to do as humans, we like to think in binaries.
exactly.
It's either I am responsible for myself or I am not. Either I am like in the victim state or I'm not, which is never like in a body state. When we're really, really in the deep listening, it's never the case. And then what I've seen this and I've done this, like again, ask me how I know. So many times, and this is what we do all the time, right? The mind tries to make sense out of the experience in a more linear way. It's this or that. I'm responsible or I'm not responsible. Um, I have no control about anything, so I'm just gonna like whatever. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters, and then everything matters. And then the mind tries to make sense out of this in this binary way, but the actual body experience exists somewhere in the dynamic dance in between this and so much more. Right? There's like a continuous movement in between so many more
Exactly.
things
Exactly.
at the same time. And then
Exactly.
the expectation of the mind with this binary is this or that. And they're like, I don't fit into this or that. I must be doing something wrong. something is wrong with me. I must heal this pattern, da da da. And then we
Exactly.
go into, yeah.
Exactly. And I was having this conversation yesterday with a friend in her car. We were driving, and it's exactly this conversation because she was telling me about this teacher, coach, whatever,
Mm.
who actually has great things to teach, but she would um, cancel the calls like maybe 7 times out of 10, you
Ooh.
know?
Yeah.
And for actual good reasons. I mean, apparently, like she's sick, like it's sick day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And she said, I think it's nice that we now talk about rest,
Mm-hmm.
position to the exhaustion culture. It's good. But then if rest is something you indulge in an immature way and from your like child
Yes.
self, then you just become an unreliable adult,
Yeah,
you know?
I do.
Exactly. And so this is a question about right relationship with your students, right relationship with yourself, right relationship with rest, you know? And so being able to um, offer things to the world like courses, whatever programs, work in general, where you actually feel that you can deliver like more often than not, and that
Mm-hmm.
you actually have
Mm-hmm.
capacity for it, except if you're actually really sick and can get out of, you know what I mean? And the how can this, like the way you give your work to the world, can give space for the tides of rest
Mm-hmm.
so that both of them can exist almost simultaneously, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And this is like, yeah, bro, you've seen it probably also a lot lately. It's like some years now it's happening, especially like on the leftist trauma deformed. This is my new term, by the way, for trauma informed culture. I'm calling it now trauma deformed because
I
it's
love this.
right? It's
I
like,
can write it
no, no,
down.
no. It's trauma deformed. So this leftist trauma deformed culture that's really perpetuates the states of this freeze and inability to do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, just rest and listen to your body. And then this listen to your body also becomes like a invitation to stay frozen forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, no, 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 like, no, 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 everything is fine. Just stay on the couch and do nothing and listen to the body. But actually, yeah, and we talked about this, I think, episode 2 or something, the nervous system state, right? You always get better in what you practice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I've met so many facilitators who are frozen and
Huh?
know they're frozen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very dangerous to use the expression listen to your body,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't have educated practice, it's a trap.
Yeah,
Like, what do you listen to? It's like, what
exactly.
are you
Yeah.
feeding? What are you listening to exactly? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can listen in the sense observe, like be like, oh, this is happening. Fine. You can do that with almost anything if you want. Okay, fine. But the interpretation and what are you making it mean and then what are we doing with this can really be a trap.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is like, we like doing this again as humans. This is how our brain works. We must keep making meaning of things. And then we get into this, right? Oh, I'm listening to my body. That's cool. And then like exactly what are you listening to? And so in my practice currently, and one of the mentors who I work with, we had a little exchange recently about, like, I asked a question around the tide of breath of life and the movement of the tide and the time it takes for the full inhalation and exhalation of the tide, not the respiratory breath, but the breath of life. And we had a conversation around, like, usually in Kronos time is like around 40 minutes, right? And then here's the point of this conversation. It's like very deeply philosophical and life altering. So ready.
Go for it.
um, yeah. So yes, it's very cool that we as humans we can observe such things. Yeah, and yes, like the tide is one of the examples, but also like any process of the body, anything in the body, thinking, feeling, breath, anything. Very cool that we can observe it. And then there will be a point when the roles kind of change and we begin to push it.
Mm-hmm.
We begin to steer it in a certain direction because, again, there's like a mental linearity tries to make sense. Like, is it this or that? Like, are we doing this or are we doing that? And we try to steer it into a certain direction, right? And then we kind of sweep roles with the tide. And instead of following life, the tide of life, yeah, the life and the creative life force and an actual experience, instead of following it,
Mm-hmm.
we start pushing it by
Mm.
human will,
Yeah.
which is, again, when it comes from our brilliant ability to overthink things, which is, again, right? It's a range. It's not bad. It's not good. It's a whole range of things. And this is something we can do. We can follow the tide. And this is where life, in my language that I use, becomes more EEE, effortless, effective, efficient, right? When it feels like even with big challenges of life and whatever external, internal, the relational layer feels more effortless, effective, efficient.
Mm.
And when we start pushing the tide by will, this is where it becomes non-effortless, effective, efficient. When everything feels so hard. Everything is so hard. And then we get into this, again, brilliant human ability to attach. We attach ourselves to this. Everything is hard. Life is hard.
Mhm.
Business is hard. Work is hard. Clients are whatever. Don't like them even, like all these things. And I realized yesterday I had a conversation with someone and I realized like I'm literally in love with every client and student I have. I'm literally in love with every human that I'm currently in contact and relation with. Like so in love that sometimes I cannot handle myself because it's like it's so overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, you're so awesome. You are so awesome. And we get to have these conversations. And I'm like, oh my God, how is this possible? This is so EEE, right? The relational layer of it is so effortless, effective, efficient.
Mhm.
Because there's no me deciding, oh, let me push it a little bit like from will. And now I have no idea what this even. Oh yeah, right. The relationship with the tide and like switching roles
Mm.
because we can.
Exactly. And I wanted to say two things about this. First of all, is yes, there's a trap that you just talked about, which is identifying with patterns
Oh
or like
yes,
geometry
yes,
or like phenomenology, something happening within you, and you identify with
yeah.
it. And I think it becomes even like it's even bigger temptation when the actual pattern touches on the psychological.
Mm,
For example, one topic that comes coming back with my clients is I always attract unreliable men.
mm,
It's not you. Like you as in you, Katja, the person, the soul and the body and the whole thing. There's just a pattern. Like there's
mm-hmm.
something. There's geometry happening.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I notice that oftentimes when I explain things like this to my clients, they're like, "What? Do you mean that we can actually change that pattern?" Yes, we can,
Mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it opens up so much space, so much possibility, so
Yeah.
much, right distance with things. And then you can orient towards other things that are more stabilizing, that you have actually capacity to relate in a way that you are loved and well treated. You
Mm-hmm,
just haven't developed that and you need repair and you need this thing and that thing. Fine, but that's not you.
mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to say this for any listeners.
And I
Careful.
have
All the things you say about yourself, I'm pretty sure all of them are not true, even if I don't know you, because
and
this is
there's
so common.
yeah, and there comes a very philosophical question because I also I speak about this quite often that your body, as in the whole ecosystem, is more pattern than it is matter. And we can, as exactly what you said, we can change patterns. And through that, we can change matter as well. And then the question becomes, what is the self? If everything is a pattern and if everything is changeable, do I have a self? And what is the individuation process? And again, it's a range. It's not like I'm either myself an isolated individual organism, or all is one and everything is same and da da da. Right? Those, like, again, the opposite side of the spectrum. And to me, it exists on a range
Mhm.
together at the same time.
What would you say is yourself? Like now, like you might change your mind, you might say it differently in 5 years, I don't know. But
For sure. Like, ask me tomorrow, I will have a
like,
different answer.
but how would you say, like, who are you? What are you?
As in specifically me, or as a definition of self?
No, you.
Oi.
It's hard. I don't have an
It
answer, I
is.
think.
No, I don't think so. I'm just kind of thinking more in, again, categories, right? Because in psychological terms of how the self is actually like a formation of many, many patterns that have been here for the longest time. And some have been here through the soul journey, some have been here from your preconception field, some have been here from this physical body, the physical experience of you becoming like the sperm and the egg coming together and forming you, and then growing into this, plus all the layers and what you said in the beginning of this recording, like all the realms, from the physical to metaphysical to mythic to primordial to all of this. And it's kind of, to me, how I perceive it currently is geometry. I love, like, speaking of people, myself included, in terms of geometry, because it's a pattern. It's kind of a compilation of patterns that come together by resonance, and it becomes kind of an individuated organism, but also by resonance, it is very much woven into a bigger, larger fields. And then again, it exists on a range. And what is self? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I love this conversation.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's what you said is quite compatible with what Jung says about individuation.
Mm.
Carl Jung. I think if I think about my own life and my history, all of the things, I might say that maybe the self can be defined by the story, like your story.
Mm.
But in this conversation with the fields and the realms and the tide of life, w- it might also be like yourself is the way the tide enters in relationship with you and the
Mm-hmm.
way you respond back.
Yes,
And this creates the story of yourself.
exactly.
And it's as if we go back to the way embryos form in the womb. There's this thing of the moment conception happens, you actually create your own body by this constant communication with the breath of life. You're an active participant in the making of your cells in conversation with God, breath of life, all the things. So it makes sense to say that yourself starts at that point as a conversation. It keeps being a conversation.
Yeah.
I like this. I had never thought of it that way. I like it.
Look at us. Like, finding big truths about what it means to be human.
The meaning of life.
The meaning of life, yes.
We cracked the code, everyone. But I will say though, the whole thing you said about um, the the self and this whole philosophical thing you said about the tide and relating to the tide, I just want to point out to the listeners, and you can interrupt and complete, is that it's actually very concrete. Like, it's philosophical when you say it this way,
Mm.
but it's something that you practice, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
practicing being in Kairos time instead of all the time in Chronos time, having a sense of a tide and not controlling it with the mind right away, and playing with this is actually something that is practice the same way you would practice, I don't know, at
Yeah.
the gym or like
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly. Squats. You
Exactly.
go practice squats, you get better at squats. You go practice
Yeah.
relationality with the tide, you get better in relationality with the tide.
It's very tangible. And honestly, it's also another way of describing trauma work.
Hmm.
You know, if you actually have a trauma pattern that is, continuing and continuing and maybe controlling your life in a certain way, um, being able to metabolize it, as we would say, or like digest it or integrate it, is entering in a relationship with it. And it's being able to actually feed into the tides and many other tides, like the tide that resources, the tide that expands your capacity, that expands your window of tolerance, and then enter with the tide of the trauma itself, like the imprint itself, and then completing it. And all of those things, it's actually the same skill we're talking about,
Yeah.
being in a relationship with the tides.
Yes. Yeah, and again, like I think we've talked about it before as well, but this is like such a thing to get into your system. It's all about this relational layer in between you and anything else.
Hmm.
It's all, to me, it's all about the receptivity and responsiveness
Hmm.
to life.
Hmm.
And yes, now we use the word tide, which I love so much because it really reflects to me the movement and the breath, and not just the respiratory breath, but the breath of nature and the tide. And there's an actual, also for me, it's a felt experience of this breath moving through, and it has a very distinct phases of inhalation, like the stop of inhale and the exhalation and the bottom of the exhale. Very trippy, but also very tangible. It's like,
Exactly. I agree.
yeah.
I agree. And a good like um trick or advice I can give everyone is use this thing of the breath, or like the tide, or like contraction expansion, or like this whole thing of like back and forth in everything, and it helps a lot to stay out of the binary.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this as a game with myself, and it really works with
Mm.
literally everything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the conversation we had last week about the sympathetic versus parasympathetic. It doesn't make sense to say one is good and the other is bad,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like having an inhale without the exhale,
Yeah.
And so if you use these things in everything in life, like, you cannot have rest if you don't have reliable um drive and work. You cannot have responsibility if you don't also have a sense of being taken care of and being irresponsible
Mm-hmm.
some other things. Like, everything is actually tidal, and life is supposed to be that way, and you're supposed to
Yes.
play and visit the whole range, and that's what makes it fun, I think, to be human.
Mm. Yeah, sometimes. A lot of the times, not always. Sometimes it's not at all fun to be human.
Exactly. Oh, but I want to speak. Oh, I don't know why I have this idea, but I think it's a good topic. I
Mm.
also think, I'm curious what you think about this, because it's really unconventional thought, and I'm sometimes afraid to be um disrespectful. I don't think I am. I don't believe in sexual orientation for that specific reason, because I
Mm.
believe that because we have a range in everything, we have a range in sexual preference. Not just the gender, like sexual preference in every bit of sexuality and your sexual
Mhm.
expression. And so I never related with that concept, and if anyone asks me what's your sexual orientation, I would say humans, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not an orientation, it's literally just me
Mhm. Mhm.
saying I don't know and I don't
Yeah.
care. and I'm just in a relationship with the world, you know? And I
Mhm.
have an ability to have desires and choose for myself. For example, saying that currently in my life, I want a male partner and I want to start a family, and it's an actual desire of mine,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's not a sexual orientation. Like it's not, doesn't say anything about my preferences in life. You know, if I love um, strawberry ice cream, I'm not a strawberry ice creamer, you know? Like it's not, you know?
Well, are you not? Wait, what?
I can change
Yeah,
my mind.
yeah,
I can like other things. I
yeah.
can, you know, because I'm going with the tide of life. And I don't know if this is going to be helpful for anyone who is maybe tripping up or questioning themselves in sexual orientation. You know, you don't have to have one. And you can, like you said when you were talking about the hunger of
Mhm.
what did you say? The
Mythic hunger.
mythic hunger. I think our journey with sex and sexual orientation is just part of our mythic hunger.
Mhm.
Like we try out
Absolutely.
stuff. It doesn't
It
mean, you know?
is a relationship with eros
Exactly.
and feeding the eros and sexual uh relationships and sexuality and um we need to have, like, I'm just thinking as I speak, we need to have a separate episode on this. Um, it is a way of feeding eros,
Yes.
one way, right? It's not like the way.
Hmm.
And eros is does not equal sex or sexual arousal or whatever, like however we want to define it. Um, right? But it is one way of feeding eros and feeding life and life force and expression of life force.
Exactly.
And then yes, with like sexual orientation and gender, especially like looking from the social perspective, again, trying to create this categories of binaries. And
Exactly.
this is a very psychological way of looking at things,
Agreed.
right? It's a very psychological, very mental oriented, which again, I understand very well. And it is a certain need for us to make sense, like in this binary way of things. Because otherwise, if we didn't have any categories of anything, we would probably go mad very quickly, right? But again, we tend to attach so much to categories. And then removing, or not removing, but moving through all these possibilities of being in this very logical, in psychological, and then in the imaginal or the mythic, where a third option comes in, right? Like a third road,
Yeah.
a crossroads.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, there's like whole other world available.
Exactly. And it's again, where do you get your sense of belonging
Yeah.
and sense of self, you know? Because I feel like sometimes this whole conversation about sexual orientation, especially if you're not in the hetero norm, can quickly transform into having a loyalty towards groups, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And and then you start sourcing your sense of belonging within certain specific communities, which is not inherently bad. It's just that what if your self um, actually needs and wants to interact with the tide differently, but you find yourself being loyal
Mm-hmm.
and identifying and wanting to belong to a certain specific community, then it becomes a trap where you stop following the journey, stop following how
Mm-hmm.
your eroticism, where it actually wants to go. And so, yeah, we're circling back to this concept, to the notion of um, what do you belong to and what stabilizes you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been like I mentioned it a couple of times at some points somewhere that I was raised in a culture and a society and a family what it was like never there were never any other options. There's just one option. You're a girl, you're socializing as a girl. Never ever in my life I felt any recognition when people called me a girl or a woman or whatever in any language that I speak. And my whole life I was like, yeah, it's just probably the language thing, or it's probably like no, 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 like kind of trying to like, no, I'm not gonna go there. Um, so like from my perspective, also being as a like neurocomplex person, ADHD, autistic, like all kinds of stuff. Um, I could never place myself in this morphic field of being a woman,
Mm.
right? And then people would address me as such, and I was always was confused and it's like, like something just it just no, I don't feel it. I don't have an experience of standing there at
Mhm.
all. Yeah, and it's like again, it's a whole other conversation, which again we should have a separate episode on like this. Um, and yeah, it's a complex conversation.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
How
be
do you
good.
feel about it now, the morphic field of being a woman?
Sorry.
And now? Like,
No,
at
I
your
don't.
current age? Okay.
I don't stand there. I don't belong there.
That's interesting. You know,
I feel like I'm existing outside of this binary a lot.
okay.
Um, Standing more in the imaginal. Kind of, I see myself more, and my students also say this as well. As like, oh, like you, no, you're not this or that. You're like a mythic beast of some sort, and we have no idea what you are. I'm like, thank you. This is the best compliment. Uh, uh, which it's like I have the felt sense of me being me is that like I don't stand on this crossroads of binary of female and male. I never understood, even like in this whole healing context, I never understood the conversation around feminine and masculine,
Okay. Yeah.
right? People who know me really well, they always like they've said this so many times that I'm a shapeshifter in a way that I can go from one side of the spectrum into like full feminine into full masculine
Mhm.
to the point of non-recognition. And to me, it feels like super comfortable. Like yeah, like no problem. I'm moving. I'm fluid in this way. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like hearing you talk about it, I don't feel like, well, one, it causes any suffering.
No, not
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
For some people, probably.
And I don't feel like there's any need in what you say to be publicly recognized in it.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
It's
I
really
don't feel the need to prove the like the that that's valid
yeah.
to anybody. I know where I stand,
Mhm.
and that's enough. And I
Yeah.
have enough people around me that also recognize that, and they don't care, but in a good way, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's really interesting. Yeah. I love talking about gender. I think, it's
Mm,
a very triggering topic, but I do actually think we need to talk about it because having everyone speak about how they relate to gender
mm-hmm,
um also gets us out of any type of ideology, whatever
mm-hmm,
it may be, and be more in the exploration of how do we experience it? How do we experience, said morphic field? I don't think I feel like a woman in a sociological sense, but I have a very biological sense of being a woman.
mm,
And I think that's the only way I define myself as a woman. Honestly, like if you take my uterus, ovaries, boobs away, I'll just be
mm,
like, okay, I'm not a woman. And I don't care.
yeah.
Like I,
Yeah. Yeah, I would
you know?
say like it's somewhat similar. Yes, like biologically, yes. Any other way, like what are you talking about?
Yeah. I think the only way that I love to learn from women when it comes to nervous system is just for biological reasons. Like
Mm,
what they do is honestly, beyond that, I don't care. And I don't know what people mean when they say feminine and masculine.
No, I don't.
except the biological sense. I'm like, like
Mm-hmm.
when some teachers say, descending in the womb, it actually makes sense to me. Also because I have this specific thing, maybe cultural, ancestral, of linking the womb to the cosmos and viewing it as a parallel.
Mm-hmm.
There's something around that that makes sense for me. But the societal meanings of feminine and masculine, I don't know what that means.
No.
Yeah,
And then, like, yeah, all the social media situation also around the feminine, masculine ways of whatever doing stuff. And I'm like, oh, no, can we not, please?
yeah, yeah. But it's a great topic because, we don't all experience it the same way. Also because we don't embody our body the same way. So many things. We don't access the
Mm-hmm.
same realms and fields. Like, so big.
And so I just had the thought, like, for everybody, just stop pathologizing your experience. It will change everything.
Yeah.
Like, the moment you stop making everything about yourself wrong, this is the moment that changes everything. And this is big. So listen up.
Yeah.
This is so, so big. And it goes also, it's so deep and so ingrained into our experience that making everything that we feel and think and how we are, everything is wrong. But it isn't.
Hmm.
And it just gives so much more space and freedom and choice and agency, everything, like all the good stuff.
Mm. I think what makes it hard to not pathologize is to find, like, beyond shame economy, is to understand the right position, if I can say this, when you've habituated yourself, for example, for a behavior that isn't optimal, like you said, staying in the couch
Mm.
all day, and so how to orient towards something else without making that behavior be bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a recognition of the movement that is happening, the
Exactly.
tide, right? The tide that brought you onto the couch, the tide that gave you the ice cream, right? There is and there was an intelligence behind it, right? There is a need behind it.
Exactly.
And so learning recognition and being able to be in relationship with whatever instead of like, oh, I'm on the couch, it's so bad, I must get up but I can't, but I must but I can't, and then go into this whole self-shame, self-guilt situation that doesn't help at all. It only makes things worse, which is again a very human thing to do.
Hmm.
And the kind of the whole fun of the human ride.
Yeah. Which
Fun, quote
speaks,
unquote.
yeah, exactly. Which speaks to this very subtle difference between self-indulgence in the couch situation and actually meeting
Mm-hmm.
the actual like freeze.
Yeah.
And I know the difference is really hard to understand sometimes
Yes.
because it's about practice, like we said, and right conditions. Sometimes you actually need to be with a good practitioner who is able to offer authentic forever and actual recognition that your freeze is makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
um, and is an inherent intelligence, and to be able to meet it in a way that it's followed by the other half of the tide, you know? Like,
Exactly. When there's a whole cycle of the breath that is still available, right? When there's inhalation, there's a top of inhalation, there's exhalation, there's a bottom of exhalation, and the cycle continues. This is also how I know that things are moving. And sometimes the tide takes years, right? And this is the practice of attunement to the tide. Like, is it still breathing? Is it still in the movement? And I can tell you, like, sometimes I indulge in the couch. Like I love the couch. And sometimes I'm just gonna like spend half a day or sometimes even a whole day. Just like I need to be horizontal today and just be like, "Ugh, don't speak to me." Right? And also listening at the same time. And every time I did this, like before, I did this as a way of like being disconnected from the movement of the tide and just collapsing into that. It was so hard to get up.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
hard to, it's just like a willpower situation. Like, oh, no, I must get up because I have things to do in the corner. And then you go into this whole right other other side of the spectrum. But when you go into this, like I must just go into, I call it my regular journeys on into the underworld.
Okay.
I was like, I feel it's coming, I'm gonna go now. Don't speak to me, people. And then I go into my underworld, and then I'm kind of gone out of this world for some hours, sometimes a day. But when I keep listening to the full cycle, there's always 100% of the time, there's always very distinct moment of when this, and for me, in my experience, is a very like it is switch from horizontality to verticality.
Mm,
Is a very distinct movement of like whoosh, and I'm back. And there's like clarity in my thinking, and there's clarity in my feeling, and I'm good again and good again to go. I can do things in a very natural way without me deciding, okay, now it's time, like, like I must go now and be like a zombie doing all the things. And it's a very distinct practice of listening.
exactly. Mm. So practice, my friends.
Do squats.
That's fun. Yeah. I've been having this experience with my body and working out, and it's been really fun to be in the threshold of, do I actually need rest, or or do I need the right size movement? And it's really interesting because I now have quite good practice in recognizing the overindulgence, like the voice of, let's not
Yeah,
do
yeah,
anything,
yeah,
and
yeah,
life sucks. And like it's
yeah.
a little bit of a flight also, like let's avoid
Mm.
life altogether and just stay in my misery,
Mhm, mhm.
and just complain, which can be satisfying, but not when it
Yeah.
lasts a day.
Yes.
And now I can really recognize okay, what's the smallest doable piece of movement? And it can be like
Mhm,
micro movement,
mhm.
but still something that meets my body, sometimes back pain or things like that, in a good way, like in the right, perfect
Mhm,
way.
mhm. Okay,
Okay,
cool. Um, yeah, I feel like it's actually a complete conversation. And
I
now
think
I'm
so.
thinking back, like, what did we talk about
I
even?
have no
Because
idea.
we didn't plan this. I switched the recording on in the middle of conversation. Like, what happened?
Yeah, about performance. Yeah.
Yeah, and we visited like such huge topics of self and gender and sexuality and indulgence and tide, and it was like huge pieces.
Uh, I have, just for the joke before finishing, I saw a friend this week, and he's an old friend, like absolutely not from the my current job. He's from my last corporate job, and he came to visit, and he said, "Your podcast with your friend is really weird,"
Thank you.
and I said, "Yeah, I think so too." I actually agree. He said, "Your friend is so weird, and you're so weird. Like, all your conversations are weird." I said, "I know." You're
Thanks.
completely weird. And it's been happening a lot with some of my friends that sometimes I recommend to people looking for help in something. They say, "Oh, that person, you can contact," and they go on her Instagram and be like, "I don't understand the things she's saying." And I'm like, "What? It's easy to. What do you not understand? It makes total sense. And that's when I started to realize that I'm a very weird person
Good. That's a compliment.
with a certain capacity to relate with non-weird people, apparently.
Mm.
But
But what is even weird or non-weird? And yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. But I consider it as a big compliment.
yeah. I didn't find it was. I just thought, okay, we're weird, apparently.
Yeah, when people say
I,
like, I don't understand what you say, or I don't understand what you talk about like in
yeah.
the podcast. And I'm like, cool, thanks.
Which actually, speaking about belonging, it's nice to belong with other weirdos.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. I enjoy this conversation so much.
Yeah. So it's also a compliment to any listener. You're weird.
You were.
Oh.
Take it.
If anything we said made sense to you, I think you have really non-typical brains. So we might someday organize a dinner with all the listeners, like a giant weirdos dinner,
Yes.
having really weird conversations about what it
Very
counts, what is
very
God.
inappropriate, right?
I love this. Okay.
Anything else to say to
I feel complete.
me
Really
too?
happy we
Me too.
chatted.
Okay, the end. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.